It's 12 p.m. right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Lunchtime Politics. We'll bring you up to speed with big happenings in the polity and in politics at midday. Let's begin with the headlines. Tripartite meeting between the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG-Dangote Refinery, called by the federal government, ends in a deadlock. NUPENG continues industrial action. Senate replies Senator representing Kogi Central Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan that she can't resume legislative duties at the expiration of her 6-month suspension, maintains that matter is a subject under adjudication. Thanks again for joining us on the program. We'll give you all access fast to the biggest happenings in the polity at midday. Let's begin with the response by the National Assembly to the senator, that's the Senate now, to the senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, maintaining that she can't resume legislative duties yet after completing her 6-month suspension. In a letter by the acting clerk to the National Assembly, Dr. Yahya Danzaria, dated September the 4th, 2025, I should say, the Senate acknowledged Akpoti-Uduaghan's notification of her intended return to work on September the 4th, the day she claimed marked the end of her suspension. The upper chamber said her 6-month suspension remains in force pending the outcome of a court appeal case instituted against the Senate by her. It insisted that no administrative action can be taken until the Court of Appeal delivers a verdict, arguing that her suspension took effect on March the 6th, 2025, and the matter is still sub judice. I can be rest assured this is going to generate loads of reaction across board, the issue of Senator Natasha Akpoti. But let's also tell you that the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Tawe Udele, believes that these reforms will benefit all Nigerians, especially the low and middle income earners and also small businesses. He's made certain clarifications on the new tax laws that is raising concerns in the country. Speaking on our program, The Morning Brief, Mr. Udele says the new personal income tax, people earning less than 100,000 naira or less, will be exempted from paying tax, and the new exemption threshold is now 100 million naira for small businesses and will not have to pay corporate income tax. And as for the 5% fuel surcharge, it was not introduced by this administration. Let's take a listen to him.
One thing I can tell you with all sincerity is that those reforms will benefit all Nigerians, particularly the low income, middle income, as well as small businesses. So on personal income tax, for example, you're exempted from paying personal income tax from January if you earn anything around 100,000 naira per month or less, which is even more than minimum wage. If you're a middle-class person who earns something around 1.8, 1.9 million or less, you'll see a reduction in the taxes you pay. And then for high-income earners and high-net-worth individuals, you see marginal increases in the amounts you pay depending on the size of your income. You know, before, the exemption threshold was 25 million. So what we now have under this new tax law is up to 100 million. So you make up to 100 million naira a year. You don't even need to pay corporate income tax. It's 0%. One very important message for people to know is that this surcharge was not introduced by this government. It was introduced in 2007. And then it wasn't implemented because government was subsidizing fuel. So there's nothing that says this tax will start 1st of January 2026. People need to get that right. We only put it into the new tax law as part of the legislative process for transparency and for orderly implementation.
The Trade Union Congress has rejected the federal government proposed 5% tax on petroleum products, giving authorities a 14-day ultimatum to reverse the plan The TUC described the proposed levy as reckless and an act of economic wickedness against the already overburdened citizens. In a statement signed by its president and secretary general, the union highlighted the severe economic hardship facing workers and ordinary Nigerians, including skyrocketing fuel prices and soaring food inflation. The statement further warned that introducing another levy on petroleum products would only worsen citizens' sufferings, cripple businesses, and plunge millions deeper into poverty. Now, the meeting to resolve the impasse between the labor unions and Dangote Group has ended in a deadlock. The meeting, which was convened by the federal government through the Ministry of Labor, ended with the unions staging a walkout. The meeting was attended by the Minister of Labor, representatives of the Nigerian Union Congress, Labor Congress, the Trade Union Congress, and the Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, as well as NUPENG and the Dangote Group. After the meeting, the unions told journalists that the industrial action will continue until reason prevails.
The representative of the Dangote refinery worked out on the Honorable Minister and organized labor. When we bent backward to accommodate his uncompromising behavior, he still did what he had to do. So we are left no option than to do the needful. It takes more than a party to reach a resolution. So whenever the representative of the Dangote petroleum refinery, when he sees the need for a meaningful dialogue, why not? We are ready. We are ready anytime, even this night. If he changes his mind and comes back, that is ready for discussion, we're here.
We cannot stand and see an investor whose main purpose is to come and enslave Nigerians. You cannot take us back to the dark days of slavery. Nigerians has wished him so well that to enslave them. So it's unfortunate that at this point in time, we're having an investor whose main purpose is to say there can't be union in his establishment. He wants to monopolize the entire system and even monopolize workers alongside with them. This we said no.
That's the focus of our conversation. We joined in the program by Nuhu Toro. He's the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress. He was in that room where all of that played out. Mr. Toro, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning, Nigerians, and thanks for having me.
You know, let's have the benefit of you being in that room, as I did introduce. We've heard a lot of things. There was a walkout. Some persons were even excused from the room by the ministry because their union is not recognized. So walk us through, before we get to the nitty-gritty of all of this, what really happened in that room that we were not privy to have been in?
Well, thank you very much. What happened in the room was no rocket science. It was just negotiations. But however, negotiations broke down at the point when the Dangote Group, staged a walkout. We saw that walkout as insulting, as unacceptable, because when you don't sit on the negotiating table, how do you put the facts bare? How do you look at people's concern? That for us was also a disrespect, not only to the entire labor movement, but to the Honorable Minister of Labor who presided over the meeting. We would have thought that in negotiations, they will sit to listen to what the issues are and provide their defense, and at the end we strike out a balance, which was absent in yesterday's meeting. So we patiently waited. After the first walkout, we waited, they came back, and at the end, they walked out again. So what was the point of disagreement? We disagreed with them at the point when we were to sign the MOU. And we have insisted that unionization is non-negotiable. It's a fundamental human right that must be respected by any employer of labor, irrespective of who he is. So long as you operate within the territory of Nigeria, you are obligated to respect the right of the worker to belong to a union, as well as his right to collective bargaining, which was the point of divergence. Now, however, all effort to make the employer, Dangote, in these circumstances, to sit and negotiate with us proved abortive. So from that standpoint, we were left with no option than to further our engagement. Don't forget, we had issued an ultimatum to say an industrial action was going to commence yesterday. And if we had had an understanding, perhaps NUPENG will have gone back to its members to say, this is the concession we've been able to get on your behalf. And based on this concession, we need to stay action and work through towards implementation of the concession. Sadly, we couldn't get that concession. The employer was under the illusion that he has the monopoly to decide whether the workers in Dangote refinery should belong to a union or not, which in itself, that notion is a violation of the Labor Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So to just give you a synopsis, that was what transpired during the meeting yesterday.
So it looks like a battle of avoiding monopoly on the Dangote end and on your end, as some persons have seen the unions as a clog in the wheel sometimes. Some have seen it as a cabal that can hold the system down. On the other hand, it's also to make sure that Dangote doesn't become another monopoly in another form. He's been accused of this over and over again, and he even makes those remarks that he didn't stop anybody from making investment just like he's done. But what was you said at the point of signing MOU, what did they agree to until the point about unionization? And this unionization, is it mandatory or is it optional by any extant law?
Well, thank you very much. I'll address your questions in that sequence. Now, the issue of unionization is non-negotiable. In as much as it is voluntary, it's also an exclusive right of the worker to belong to the union. It's not at management's prerogative or investors' prerogative reside with the workers, which the Dangote group failed to understand and refused to accept that power to decide either to join the union or otherwise reside with the worker. Rather, the Dangote group chose in their wisdom to determine for the workers either to belong to a union or not, which was what we kicked against, because the reason why the workers of Dangote must be unionized is that they are being treated as slaves. Slaves in the sense that they have no right. Contrary to the Labor Act or the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which gives them the latitude to belong to a union, because the law knows clearly that it is when a worker is unionized that he can negotiate with his employer. But an individual, it is difficult for an individual worker to negotiate whatsoever for whatever right he wants to push forth with his employer. And it is only through the union that workers can get better working conditions, can negotiate their wages, can negotiate hours of work, and so on, maternity leave, and so on and so forth. So that was what they failed to understand. And again, if the investor, for instance, refuse to accept the fact that the right to unionize and collective bargaining reside with the worker, then invariably there will be no way we will strike at a balance, because that is the fundamental, that is the basic that the worker requires to be able to survive in the world of work.
Yeah, Mr. Toro, I think Section 40 also of the Constitution gives that freedom of association and all of that. So won't compromise be, since you've said that by, let's use our ground norm, which is the Constitution that says you have the freedom of association and all the things that have been stated in the fundamental rights, won't compromise be to say the workers who want to join the union can join the union, the workers who don't want to join the union should not join the union? Won't that be, is that not what was, is that what was proposed, or NUPENG or the trade union, the unions are saying every worker must join the union, just like Dangote Refinery is saying no worker must join the union?
No, not at all. That was not the position we pushed, because we are not also ignorant of the fact that unionization is voluntary, and the worker has the right to either join the union or otherwise. But it will interest you to note that chunk of these workers are with us. They are with Pengasson, they are with NUPENG, they are with Textile and with CAMSA. We've already reached out to the workers and have had an understanding that because of the unfair labor practices going on in Dangote Group, they want to unionize, because they know that it's only when they are unionized that they can push for their position. But this is what the employer or investor is trying to do. He's trying to use divide and rule tactics and also coerce and compel the workers not to join the union. Don't forget, the new drivers that have been employed by Dangote were compelled to sign a no to unionization clause in their employment procedure, which contravenes the law. Because when you coerce, because you think you have monopoly, you coerce the workers and compel them to sign a no to unionization in their employment clause, that for us is unacceptable. And we are saying allow the workers to freely, on their own volition, decide either they want to belong to a union or not.
Yes.
Yes.
My apologies. So at what point, because this is becoming a bit clearer now, at what point did the union realize that, as alleged by you and maybe the union, that there is a non-unionization clause in their contract? Because before I came to work here, if I'm not comfortable with the clause in my contract, I will raise objection. And if those objections are not properly explained or I don't accept it, I will not be sitting here today as a presenter. It's because I chose to accept those clauses, and I'm here working and I'm talking to you. So at what point did the union, realize that this was what was going on? And when you say unfair labor practices, what exactly do you mean?
What I mean by unfair labor practice is when workers' rights in the world of work are not respected. Workers are not slaves, don't forget, and they should have some rights while working. They must be treated with dignity. So, coming back to your question, you see, you know the nature of unemployment rate in Nigeria today. And because there are no jobs, people have no choice than to grab what they are, like a drowning man, than to grab whatever employment opportunity they have. That does not mean they cannot push forth to say, hey, we did this because there are no jobs and we needed this job badly. But you can also enter into an agreement under duress. So in these circumstances, this is one of those agreements that the workers were coerced to enter into under duress. But it is also very, very unlawful for anybody to take away that last bus stop, that buffer that the worker has to be able to push forth his complaint when they arise in the workplaces. So that is why we are saying, hey, you cannot beat these workers and ask them not to cry. There are procedures, don't forget, even in the negotiation, in the collective bargaining, in the CBAs that we are talking about, there are rules of engagement. But because the investor is bent on stopping unionization at all costs. He fails to see beyond his imagination that he doesn't want a union in the workplace. And to also justify that, he quickly registered a company with the CAC to indicate that that is the union that they must belong to. So you see, from all of these trajectories, you will agree with me that he is bent on not allowing unionization to thrive.
So let's dig further, Mr. Toro. Is this not this looks to me more like survival of the fittest kind of fight. On one hand, I look at what he's I think I understand he's put together 4,000 CNG-powered trucks for logistics, so haul the petroleum products across the different states of the federation. That if the 4,000, if you split it by the number of local governments, you can be able to cover all of them, at least 5 trucks per local government. That's how large the capacity is. So, and one was wondering why he had to go into logistics, although I think there's no law holding him back from the entire subsector, which is another, the downstream, which is another argument altogether, because the argument around survival. So I'm asking the question based on the fact that, do you think he's doing this to protect his business because he feels that there's a tendency within the system to sabotage him, so this is his own way of saying, look, before you go one step, I'm going to go 100 steps ahead of you?
Well, I don't think that is the case in these circumstances. I think what he's doing is being smart by a half. Smart by a half in the sense that he wants the new workers that will be responsible to drive those new trucks to sign a no to unionization clause, so that as soon as he gets that, he will dispense with the already employed workers that have been agitating for unionization.
Okay. So where do we go from here now? Because this is a negotiations, engagements are ongoing, although there's a deadlock. We hope there will be no breakdown such that all of us may end up suffering as the masses. So what does the union plan to do? Because if it doesn't work out, we expect it to get all the way to the NOI, National Industrial, NIO rather, National Industrial, NIC, the National Industrial Court, where these disputes can be resolved. And I don't know whether all the unions have a local standby, since it's the prerogative of the worker. If the worker doesn't institute a suit, I don't know what the law says about that. How do you want to proceed in the future?
Well, you see, first and foremost, the union leaders are also Nigerians. And either head or tail, we have relatives and we are ourselves, affected by whatever action we take. Don't forget, to organize a strike action is not tea party. I can tell you a lot of resources, time, and intellectual inputs will go in to be able to be successful in any strike action. So we don't always like going on strike because we know what's involved in organizing a strike action. So, and that does not mean because a lot is required, we'll fold our arms, look the other way, and allow citizens of this country to be treated as slaves or accept slave labor. So, however, we are not averse to negotiation. We are not averse to negotiation. That was why we respectfully stayed there until close to 12 midnight yesterday, waiting for us to pull the negotiations through. But sadly, that didn't happen. We suggest that if we are invited, even right now, we are available, we'll make ourselves available to ensure that we put forth our demands on the table. And we are not rigid people. We are not rigid people, and we are not ignorant of the fact that the principles of negotiations is give and take. We've given, and we are ready to take whatever is available. But what we will not do is to compromise the welfare of all the workers in Dangote Group. Okay. Beyond this, we will ensure that we push forward to make sure that their rights are adequately protected.
Well, thank you for coming through, giving us what played out in the room, and we hope that there will be some level of agreement in this at this very stage so that we're not grounded as a nation because of this dispute. Nuhu Toro is the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. We are also hopeful, very positive that we'll be able to pull it through.
Absolutely. And then let's tell you that ahead of the 2027 elections, members of the All Progressives Congress in Lagos have kicked off what they call grassroots movement for Tinubu, President Bola Tinubu, at the inaugural seminar held in Ikeja, attended by directors of grassroots movement for Tinubu from across the federation. The Director General of the group, Missy Yusuf, described the movement as an engine room of mobilization.
The heartbeat of democracy lies in the grassroots, and with organized action and collective commitment, no goal is beyond our reach. GMT is not just another political group. We are the engine room of mobilization, the bridge between leadership and the people, and the vanguard of renewed hope at the grassroots.
Sentiment alone cannot win elections. Organization and grassroots connection must be stronger, and that is exactly what we are doing now by forming GMT. We must reconnect with the grassroots, especially in Lagos and the Southwest, by showing that Tinubu delivers not just promises, but results.
And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.